Okay, folks, good evening. Very glad that everyone is here for our town hall meeting this evening. My name is Jim Dooley, and I am going to be the moderator for this evening's event. I'm on the faculty here at Muskingum. I'm a village resident, and I'm also a member of the Village Community Task Force, which you may hear referred to as the VCTF in order to get us out of here before midnight. And that is the organization which has sponsored this event and the ice cream social that we had last week. So we're very excited to kick off an event basically that's focused on dialogue. And in order to get us going, I'm going to ask President Sue Hassler to give you some words of welcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. So as Jim said, I'm Sue Hassler, the president here at Muskingum University. And just to say briefly, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you to all of the students who are here. Thank you to all of the community members. All of us are neighbors. We all live and share this space, live in and share this space. And I think it's so important for us to talk with one another about how that works, how it really works for us to live in community, to be a part of a community, and to learn from one another. So I am very excited about having this panel. I'm very excited about the people who are really being thoughtful about this and saying, how do we do our best job of being part of a community together? So I really welcome you to this conversation. I want to thank in advance all of our panel members who will be giving you, I'm sure, their introductions, telling you who they are, and also thanking Jim Dooley for moderating. So I hope we have a great conversation this evening. I'll go ahead and also introduce my colleague in this initiative, Brett Essex, our mayor of the village of New Concord. And this conversation really began after a meeting that Brett and Charlotte Coffey and I had about how we can really increase our neighborhood and neighborly behavior. And so I look forward to hearing some words of welcome from Brett as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, President. As introduced, Brett Essex, Village of New Concord Mayor. I've had the privilege to serve in this role for 1 year and starting in our 9th month, so of a 4-year term. So kind of new to that role. Served on village council for about 18 plus years prior to that. I've lived in town the majority of my life here. So I want to echo the same welcome. It was a great opportunity. I got to speak to the freshman incoming class a week or so ago on our Friday, a couple weeks ago, and wanted to welcome them to the village, as I do here to the students and to our community people we have here, to come down, get involved, be a part of the community. As President Hassler said, we are neighbors. We all share that same space, and that's our common goal. And back to that original conversation that we had, was just looking for opportunities and ways to enhance that relationship. We have longtime residents that have lived in the village. We have new residents that live in it, and we have our students that come in and cycle through on the 4-year increments or whatever it takes for that career. I won't put just 4 years to it, but maybe some last more. So we're just finding ways that we can just work hand in hand and open that door up. So I too commend this panel, and we'll let them get to the task at hand. Before I do put the mic down, I would like to introduce one new member of our staff at the Village of New Concord that has just started Monday, is our new police chief, Mindy Peck. So I'd like to we want to welcome her, and I'm sure you'll be hearing words from her and our inner chief, Jeff Dawson, that served in that time. We thank him for all that, and he's here too to bring us all this.
Okay, just a couple words of context here. The Village Community Task Force essentially has a foundation going back to last spring when President Hassler and Mayor Essex, suggested that we needed to have a group to open some conversation, to have some dialogue. And the group is represented by student residents, by what I call perennial residents, so people who are here kind of for the longer haul, by university staff and faculty, and also by village administration and government. And the idea is just to facilitate some conversation about what's going on in our community and hopefully open some channels for better dialogue. The genesis of this did come from the recognition that there seemed to be a shortfall in communication. That being said, our group has operated from the assumption and the expectation that we can go forward because there's an opportunity here to enhance our community through communication, conversation, and ultimately connection and understanding. And that's where we're coming from, and that's what we want to work towards, and that's what our aim is in every event that we put on. Tonight we are particularly focused on the communication piece, but those other parts are really important, and I want to make sure that you all understand that's kind of the heart and soul of where we come from in all of this stuff. Beyond what we may be talking about in terms of codes and things tonight, there's something that I want to emphasize. There are codes and there's enforcement. So we've got people here representing our village government, representing our university, and so there are codes, there are rules, but there's also how those are enforced. And I'm really excited because you're going to get kind of the whole package here tonight, and there's opportunities for everyone here, for students and perennial residents, to ask some questions, because it is the combination of those things that turns out to be what happens in our real world here. Before we kind of turn it over, two other real small points. The codes that we're talking about operate for all residents. Okay, this is not something that was contrived for students. And in fact, this summer, the 4th of July, my neighbor and I have an annual 4th of July party, and we have a little rock and roll stage that we set up, and Officer Dawson needed to come by and tell us to tone it down, okay? My point being that this is about all of us living in community, and community is about respect and relationship. And I'm going to close it off here before I introduce the panel, have the panel introduce themselves, by quoting from something I was looking through the university student handbook, which I haven't spent a lot of time with. There's a line in there that I really like, and I think it serves as a guiding framework for what we're trying to do here. And it says, the university places special emphasis on certain community ideals, such as tolerance, civility, and respect for the person and conscience of others. I think those are good words for us in what we're trying to do here. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it over to the panel and allow each of you guys to introduce yourselves. And then we're going to start off with Amber speaking a little bit about university codes. And then, Chief, if we could turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your philosophy as police chief. And then, Sergeant Dawson, if we could have you talk a little bit about your notions in terms of enforcement, and then kind of open it up. After the panel has a chance to speak, we will open up. We've got a microphone up here for people to come and ask questions, make comments. It's very helpful for our broadcast for WMCO if you actually speak into the mic, because if you don't, it's not going out over the air. And I can tell you as a WMCO DJ, dead air is something that you get yelled at about, right? So let's try to facilitate that. All right, thank you. If we could start, Danny, with you and just kind of go down the line.
My name is John.
You're live.
My name's Daniel Vinson. I'm the chief of police here at the university.
I'm Mindy Peck. I'm the chief of police at New Concord.
I'm Jeff Dawson. I'm the former interim, but now sergeant at the Village of New Concord.
I'm Amber Farley. I'm the assistant dean of students here at the university.
I'm Charlotte Colley. I'm the village administrator for the Village of New Concord.
I'm Greg Brown, and I'm your neighbor.
My name is Ryan Luton. I'm a university student, senior. And I'm also your neighbor.
And my name is Susan Warwick. I'm the Dean of Students.
Only we had wireless mics. A wireless mic would have been a whole lot easier. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the university policy. Specifically, the one that I want to talk about is our off-campus behavior policy, because I think that's the reason most of us are here. So this summer we created, and I'm going to use the word creative very loosely, we put into writing our off-campus behavior policy. It has always been our policy and always been our practice to address violations of law that happen off campus when we are aware of them. And the reason that we do this is we say a muskie is a muskie no matter where they are. So if you are on campus or off campus, you're a muskie and you are representing the institution, and there are certain expectations that we have for students. So the off-campus behavior policy just solidifies that a little bit more and makes it a little bit more clear, saying that we expect muskies to follow all laws and to obey the law when they are off campus and when they are on campus.
What I'm going to discuss with you for a few minutes is, I didn't start out as the police chief, obviously, so I worked here from 2013 to 2015 as a police officer here in New Concord, so I'm a little bit familiar as to what goes on and off campus. Our major goal is to allow you students to have a good college experience, and we want that, but we also have to have our residents that live here in the area a peaceful way to live as well. And like they said before, like the mayor said, I want to touch back on, you guys are part of this community. You're a Muskie student, you'll always be a Muskie. So we have to find common ground and everybody talk to one another instead of arguing against each other. We want everybody to get along, and Sergeant Dawson's going to talk about part of the ordinance and how that's going to apply. Then we'll come back later and discuss other things that can happen.
Well, I'm Jeff Dawson. I did start with this task force in the beginning. We've been talking about different things to make experiences, as you guys have, off campus, and also it works well with the community around you. So the Village of New Concord has created a ordinance, and it's called a Nuisance Party Ordinance. And I know that a lot of people have been misinformed about what this ordinance is and what this ordinance does and does not do. I've heard a lot of different things, and I won't go down through those, but I'm here today to tell you about exactly what this is and the reason why we created it. First off, we are not out here to give everybody citations, take people to jail and stuff. That's not our main goal. Our main goal is to make sure everybody lives peacefully with each other and you guys have fun. So first off, with the ordinance, it will take effect as soon as Monday, I think, is actually the first day. Yep. Yeah, so there's going to be a grace period. So what everyone will get to do, we will be informing people on what's going on, how this ordinance is actually working. So say a situation happens and you're at a party or you're hosting a party and you're in violation of that ordinance, say this weekend or next weekend or whenever. And we will come up to you and say, hey, this is your warning. You're in violation, and because of this was the violation. So that will be your warning. We're giving a 30-day grace period or 3 warnings. You can get 3 warnings in one night. So be it. I mean, that's what it is. If you spread them out and you only get 1 warning or no warnings, as of September 30th, there will be no more mandatory warnings posted out. So that's about when it's going to actually start. Actual citations are going to start coming out. So first off, what it does is this ordinance makes everybody that is hosting parties responsible for their guests. Most of the time, when we come out on calls of a noise ordinance where there's a lot of people out, there's people urinating in the next door neighbor's yard, or there's throwing cans and trash everywhere, or just making a lot of problems. it's not normally the homeowner or the actual people that live there, it's their guests. And a lot of times it's not the guests inside, it's the guests outside. If you host a party, you are responsible for your guests. And we need to make sure that people understand that, whether it's a college house or whether it's, as Jim said, I had to go out there and have them shut it down. It happens, but you have to be responsible for what's going around because it is your responsibility. So what this does is kind of makes it your responsibility to take care of your guests. The nuisance party, it kind of outlines several other different violations. So, for instance, if you have people at your house and you have somebody out there and they're using an illegal use of a controlled substance or smoking marijuana, whatever you want to call it, and you have people doing criminal mischief and criminal damaging. Yeah, it's not you doing it, but it's your guests at your party. You need to be responsible for those. We will handle those citations and issues with the people creating those problems and breaking those laws. But now your house is actually in violation because you're throwing the party of the Nuisance Party Ordinance. Say it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday and you've got 150 people out there and they're breaking windows and throwing cans in the next door neighbors. We'll handle them, but you are also in violation as well. So we want to make sure that we understand what it does and what it is, so you guys are able to keep control of your guests during these times. Is there anything else really you want to touch on it?
I can talk a little bit.
You want to? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So as I mentioned, I'm Charlotte Colley, the village administrator, and I'm also a former Muskie. So I've been in your shoes. I've lived off campus as a student resident. I'm also from Muskingum County, so I'm not from the village of New Concord. I'm from this area, so I'm very familiar with New Concord and the surrounding community. To add to what Officer Dawson has said, Village Council and the village administration received lots of complaints about parties, not necessarily all student parties. They were just parties that got out of control. We researched with other communities, other college towns who have similar situations to figure out what's the best way to deal with this issue. And this is where the Nuisance Party Ordinance idea came from. In those conversations, we also found out that those communities have much better lines of communication and relationships with one another. So in addition to dealing with the ordinance, we're also, through the task force, trying to create those lines of communication, open up those relationships, build on those relationships, and work together to become one community, the university and the village. So to add to what has already been said, as far as the ordinance goes, we've created an FAQ. It's over on that table, has lots of different questions about what happens. So one of the questions is, what should I do if an officer appears at my house to enforce the Nuisance Party Ordinance? The answer is comply with the officer's request. Failure to comply with the officer's request to shut down the party will result in a citation and/or an arrest. One other question is, what are typical violations that would cause a party to be declared a nuisance? Noise violations, litter violations, disorderly conduct, and these don't all have to be of you, the resident or the homeowner or the tenant. These are your guests, whether they're invited guests or not. Underage consumption or possession of alcohol, throwing items beyond the property line, etc. One other question that we've heard through the past years from folks who are hosting parties that get out of hand. You know, we come to the house and the tenant says, my guests are inside. I don't know who these other people are. They just came. They just showed up and I can't make them leave, and now it's out of control and I don't know what to do. So if you're in a situation like that, what do? You call the police. And if you do call the police and you have a party that you know is out of control, they will come, they will assist you, and there will be leniency. They will work with you to help resolve the situation because you took the first step to help fix the problem. So take a look at this FAQ. Hopefully it will answer a lot of the questions and resolve a lot of those rumors about what this does, what this doesn't do. But please feel free, get in touch with myself, any of our officers at the village, or anyone in student life who could be able to answer your questions and help you work through any of the lingering things that you still have. I'll turn it back over to Officer.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Do we want to do questions on it?
Does anybody?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
All right. Are there other members of the panel that would care to input at this point? Oh, okay. So we're gonna. Yep. All right. Greg Brown.
So I grew up here, and back when I lived here, middle school kids had the distinction of being the problem residents. And maybe a little more in high school, but it was very much, things have changed in the past 20 years, we'll say. And when I moved back here 15 months ago, I was struck at, not just at how things had changed, but by how people had seemed to give up. That there was a lot of, well, we've tried this and it's still bad, and we've tried this and it's still bad. So I really wanted to be part of this task force because I think it's important not just to identify the problems, but to work together to come up with those solutions, because it's a great neighborhood. Thompson and Montgomery, you know, I learned to ride a big wheel, I learned to ride a bike, I learned to drive a stick shift on those alleys, and things have changed. There's a lot more cars, so people are driving a lot faster. Do watch out for the kids learning to ride their bikes. You're moving into a new neighborhood. It's important to want to be part of that community. But because it's not just me, and I made a point of talking to all of my neighbors, or as many as I could, to kind of identify what's really going on here. A few things came through, and I want to start with the most important one to me, is that people really like living near students. Surprisingly, it seems like the older you are, the more you like living near students. My dad loved retiring here precisely for that reason. It keeps you young. There's good energy. When I moved back to New Concord 15 months ago, I was pleased to see more diversity. Students bring a lot more to the neighborhood than was here when I grew up here, and I really appreciate that. But of course, there's also the other side of that, and I just want to quickly say the four themes that really came up. One is trash. We're talking about litter. We're talking about maybe occasionally somebody rips a cabinet off a wall and throws it out the window kind of litter, but usually it's bottles, usually it's cans, but it's the sort of thing that it's a neighborhood that you're living in, and you should want it to look good. You should want to take pride in making the community, you know, just like I do. I don't like taking out the trash, but I do it. But there are also tips. I lived in a party town in Madison, Wisconsin for 20 years, and our landlords knew how to handle it. And so if you're having trouble with that, ask for help. Ask for new trash cans. Ask for more trash cans. Ask what the regulations are. So trash is one. Noise complaints are obviously a big one. There were parties here when I grew up. What we did is we invited our neighbors to them. And if you're throwing the kind of party that your neighbors don't want to come to, maybe try to come up with a different way to party that's maybe a little more appropriate for the neighborhood. Just a suggestion, something to think about. The third was perceptions of safety and actual safety, not just like running over a kid with a big wheel, which is a big concern, but also, you know, what is it like to need to run down to the convenience store, especially, you know, I have, as a man, I don't necessarily feel that so much, but if you're a woman and you get in your car at 12 o'clock as, you know, you can't tell if they're fighting or just yelling or just urinating. So, you know, but where does that come from? And so there are solutions to that as well, too, and I think part of it is why we're on this task force, that we had the ice cream social, we're meeting each other. I'm a firm believer that if you're less likely to do harm to somebody if you know them, but also that if we know each other, we can make requests for assistance without it. And I'll tell you, the biggest difference when I moved back, there are some people that aren't here today, I can tell you, that live in the neighborhood just because they fear repercussions of speaking out, and we want to end that. We want to make sure people feel comfortable talking to each other. So mostly, this is about communication, But it's about, realizing that the two of us are neighbors. He's a student and I'm not a student, but we live in the same community. And why live in a town like New Concord if you don't want to be involved in the community? That's what it's about.
Okay, thank you, Greg. All right, I think what we're going to do is open up our mic here for questions and comments. This is a really good opportunity to ask things that might be on your mind in terms of details of these sorts of policies, but it's not the only opportunity. One of the things I want to say, I want to commend our police force, our university police force, and our village police force, because you guys are very approachable. And I have seen students approach Officer Dawson, having had a pretty good few hours before that time, just asking some questions. And you don't need to be afraid about communication, okay? We have excellent people here who are community-minded. But right now, we have a particularly good opportunity, so if you do have questions or comments, we want to invite you to the mic and come on up and start the conversation.
Testing, testing. My name is Paul Galbraith. I live at 110 Thompson Avenue, across from two houses that are rented. And back to the trash. For 2 weeks at least, there was a couch sitting in their front yard. Did anybody do anything about it? No. I had to call, I text a picture to Mr. Carrington, and it was taken care of in like 2 days. Now, I'm not getting on anybody, but who's enforcing this stuff? And then, behind us is another rental property where there was couches there since I've moved here. I texted Mr. Carrington. 2 days later, it's taken care of. All of a sudden. I mean, is there anybody in the village that takes care of this? And then also across the street, I've been looking at it every day. There are 6 garbage cans that sit there. Every day. All summer long. That's a beautiful picture when you're sitting on your front porch. Pretty nice. And, go ahead. And nothing against police officers or anything, but when you have 150 kids across the street and you bring one officer up, how safe is that? Come on. Been there, seen it, I don't know how many times. It makes me shake. And I've called the police department. The one time, I called them 4 times and I asked them where they're at. They said, well, we're on Thompson Avenue. Well, I don't see you. Well, they come walking up the street with a freaking flashlight. With 150 kids across the street. I said, you look like a freaking mall guard. Come on. Throw some sirens on, everything else.
I'll address the trash issues and the enforcement issues, and then I'll hand it over to Sergeant Dawson so he can talk more about the enforcement and the police issues. So, as we've tried to communicate with the entire community, we have folks who are doing their jobs throughout the community, looking for things. We don't always catch everything. So what we've asked our community members to do is when you see something that isn't right, like a couch in the yard or trash or issues like that, if you want it resolved in a timely fashion, please contact us immediately. Don't wait to let it sit for 2-3 weeks before calling someone because you're angry about it. Please contact us right away. We would rather know about it the first time you see it so we can get it dealt with, because we don't, like I said, we don't always see it. So
Those who someone drive up and down the street.
we do have folks that drive up and down the street. They're not always looking for those particular things. We don't have a dedicated code enforcement officer, someone who particularly goes out into the community looking for those types of things. So that's part of the issue that you're experiencing. So please, anybody in this room, if you notice anything out of the ordinary, trash, issues, any problems, call us, and then we can deal with it more quickly. Does that help to answer some of your concerns? You're welcome.
Well, I was going to touch on that real quick. And for the college students, I don't, in your case, I don't know if that couch maybe came from inside when they moved. I'm not sure. A lot of times you guys can get a hold of who you're renting from, and they technically, if it was left there when you got there, we can contact them. I mean, you can just come to us and we can figure that out with you and get them to get it moved, because we had that issue when I was here before. And that's what we did. We contacted the landlord, and they came and they were responsible for removing it.
That makes sense.
So, I mean, but yeah, call down or let us know. And I can even have the officers too. I can mention it to them, like when they're out patrolling, if they see something, log it, and they can leave it for me in the morning, day shift, I'll take care of it. I'll stop, check it out, and we'll go from there. So, if that'll help. So.
Now I've lived here 2 years. I love this community, spend all my money here. I love it here. We don't want to move. But we found out after we purchased our house, from the people we bought it from, my fiance found out through work that the reason they moved was because of the people across the street, because it was out of control. And nothing was ever been done about it. So I'm not putting up with it. I like to have a good time just as much as anybody else does. So you can have your good time, have your party, but there's also a time and a place and a noise level.
Well, I'll speak for, on the police side stuff. That's what we're here for today. That's the reason we're here. We know there's an issue, and we are reaching out to people to get ideas and comments and concerns, and I appreciate you bringing that to us. As far as you wanting us to come up, lights and sirens for a noise violation, the sirens are loud. It's just going to cause more noise. Now, lights is one thing, but we're there to get them out of there, okay? 2, we are only, at most of the time, a one-officer department. We do not have the funding of a small village.
That's pretty scary for your officer, I can tell you that right now, because I've witnessed it.
It can be at times, but that's how it is. Now, we have campus police. If something goes crazy, we can have another, but that's only 2. We are not, the village does not have copious amounts of money where we can hire 3 or 4. I mean, it would be great. But that's why you will only see 1 to 2. Now, we are doing things. We have an auxiliary department. We are rebuilding that currently right now. We are working on things to get several other auxiliaries out on the weekends when we know most of these issues are happening, and we are targeting them in those areas to be out, to be seen, to be present, on top of the regular patrol officers that we have. So hopefully from here on out, these new steps that we are taking will help with those safety issues, and it is a safety issue. We were just speaking about it yesterday, how much of a safety issue that is. You have 100 kids, and 99% of the time, they're okay, but you get 1 or 2, and you don't know what's going to happen. So, and it's not just college students. I mean, it could be anybody at any parties. So we are taking steps right now to ensure the safety of the officers and help with deterring all that behavior before it happens, so we can be more present in the area. We've reached out to the Muskegon County Sheriff's Department. We've asked them to come out and do patrols on Fridays and Saturday evenings. They'll be making loops around through the area just to be seen. It's the deterrent. And hopefully those things will help right now. And we are still, this is what this task force is about, is to come up with ideas to help with the whole problem. And that's why we're here tonight, to get the concerns of the public.
Well, everybody here, besides the students, were probably my age, probably younger. When there's a car that comes with their lights on, guess what kids are doing? You don't have to arrest them because they're scattered. Party's over, folks. And you only have 1 officer on duty? Let them kids scatter. You're not going to arrest them anyway. How can you arrest 1 person when there's 100? You're not arresting anybody on this sheet. Because you can't, because there's only 1 of you. Put them lights on, let them be intimidated.
Okay, and I understand that, but we have a policy, an agency policy for like lights and sirens, and that is for like domestics, things like that. For a noise complaint, it doesn't, lights and sirens, it's just the way it is. There's policies for everything.
No, it's not, because they pulled my fiance over in front of our house because she said she had an invalid driver's license, which was incorrect, and they left the lights on Everything else, she asked them to turn them off. They said, no, I'm not allowed to do that.
For a traffic stop?
Yes.
For traffic stop, you don't turn them off.
No, you don't
stay
turn
on
your lights
for
off.
safety.
Well, yeah, but it was an illegal stop on top of that.
That's another topic. If you would like to speak with us privately after
I
this,
probably
come
will.
down tomorrow. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you, but I would like to stay on topic of what's going on here today and the issues with.
Okay, I apologize.
Not personal stuff.
But if we do, that's for lights and sirens, it has to be within the policy. I mean, why? Because we can't have people running, there's policies.
You're not going to intimidate kids with a flashlight. I'm sorry.
We have a policy.
Is that in here?
No, it's a department policy.
Can I get a copy of that sometime?
You were more happy to come down and request copies, and absolutely anything. It's 400 some pages long, and you can tell us what subjects and things you want, we can get that for you.
Okay, well, that's no problem.
We're getting off topic. We can talk about that personally.
Sure.
Separate, if you want to come down and speak with us.
All right, well, I'll let someone else take the floor until I come up with something else.
All right. We have, sorry, yeah, I'm good at this. Okay, we have opportunity for other people to come forward to the microphone. We've got a couple folks here. We'll get you in, Bill. That's just for the, it's not going to come out here, that's just for the radio.
Okay. I'm Kenan Martin. I live off campus. One of the things that I want to say, people that live off campus, you guys can approach us. If there's a problem, like for example, the couch issue, if you see that it's not getting fixed within like a day, 2, 3, 4, you can approach us. I mean, we're pretty like civilized, right? We're not gonna yell at you. We're not gonna kick you out of our house. Like if you come to us and you say, hey, I don't appreciate this, can you guys fix it? We're gonna do it. Now, another thing, the task force, they've done a tremendous job. It doesn't matter if we have 200 kids, 15, 3 kids at our house. They come with flashlights. The main point is not to arrest anybody. We want to be able to have social gatherings, get them like under control and all that. They've done a wonderful job. I talked to Officer Dawson like last week or something like that, last weekend, and like we don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's how, you know, we have arguments with you guys, because if we feel like, no, I know, but if anybody feels like we're getting attacked, things are not going to get resolved, you know. So if anybody has a problem, for example, this wonderful sir, how many times have you come to our house? A lot, right? He comes over, he hangs out with us, he talks to us. There's no issue at all, because he approaches in a like very nice way. And I think that's what we need, honestly. We need students to communicate with you guys. If there's an issue, just come talk to us. We'll try to fix it. If a party gets out of hands and we can't like control that, we'll make sure that we call, you know, New Concord, we call Campo, and we'll fix it. I think that's about it. We're not mean people. You guys are not mean people. Like we want to respect you guys, and we expect the same, you know? So I think we need a little bit more communication between you guys and the students that live off campus. That's all.
Thank you, Q. Bill?
May I have the floor for a moment?
You may have the floor.
I'm getting tired.
Bill will follow, folks.
Who knows the evil that dwells in the heart of men? The shadow knows. I walk a lot at night, especially during that very, very hot weather. Dundee and I would take off, and a beautiful, quiet village through a lovely campus. Congenial students stopping to say, "May I pet your dog?" And a sense of calmness and feeling, almost beatification, comes over one. And yet, I came to this campus in 1956, so I've been a member of the faculty for a long time now. the changes are changes in our external culture that are so upheaving that it's difficult for us to carry. I see some people back here that I knew when they were in class, and now they're very distinguished members of this community and have communicated very, very much. But let me say this. I have seen over and over again when there have been groups of perhaps not so congenial and slightly inebriated students start to raise an uproar. Very soon you see a squad car from the new Concord police, and almost immediately a squad car from the university police. They work in tandem all night long through this community, and wherever there is something that needs attention, they are both there together to help. And I think that's commendable. And if there is injury, we have a splendid emergency medical service that comes. The community, I grant you, is small, but they're there. But there are problems that have to do with the change in the way our students now look at things, and we've just got to deal with that. May I take you to June 22nd for just a minute, because one of the things that we're concerned about, of course, is traffic on campus and the environs. Those were the hot days. I walked Bonnie Dundee through the streets of Lincoln Lane and down to Main Street, down Main Street, and we come back up College Drive. We had turned on to College Drive, and it was about 10:30, all so very peaceful and nice. And have you ever seen the deer come out with their young fawns on that meadow below the music building, Walter Hall? Something that is beautiful and perhaps poetic. Well, as we turned on, we too, up College Drive, he thought he saw or heard a deer, and he probably did, over across the boulevard on the other side from the College Drive Church. So I gladly let him lead me over there. He got to the far curb. I fell down in the street. And when I fall down, I can't get up. And so I was lying there. I had a nice white jacket on, a white cat, and I had a torch with me. This would be 10:30. 3 at least pickup trucks came by about that close to me, lying on the street, flashing the light. I can't believe that they didn't see me, what it is they heard. Or if they didn't see me, they're saying, "Dear, I'm off duty now. I should be home in about 15 minutes. But I wasn't ready to go home yet. I was still lying in the street. And so finally I was able to roll over and get my AARP cell phone out, and I rang 911, and I think I was talking to somebody in the Philippines, but anyway, they called a block over to the emergency medical service, and within 15 minutes when I started this call, the ambulance came, the campus police came, and very tenderly lifted me up into the ambulance and said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" "No," I said, "I just put me on my feet and help me home." And so we got home. But you know, I'm wondering even tonight why somebody didn't stop to offer to pick me up. They did take some care not to run over me, and I appreciate that. I remember saying to myself, if the German Air Force didn't get me a Ford 158, so that was kind of the way that worked out. Now, the summation is simply this. I appreciate, even love this community. I think our police in the main do an admirable job in the emergency medical service, and volunteer fire departments are superb. I think we need to keep telling one another how we can take care of one another. Some of us are getting old. We want to stay in our homes. We want to stay in this community. And we need to help one that. I'm living in my 94th year now, and this makes a difference perhaps in how you view things, but you wait, you'll get there, and you'll understand and remember my remarks, because the shadow knows. Please. And let us tell one another what the crosswalks mean. I thought that they meant the pedestrian had the honor.
They do.
But there are many of our students who don't understand that. There is a project for Mr. Brown in his leisure time now.
Bill, I would say I've seen plenty of people who aren't students not observing the crosswalks too, so. All right, we do want to wrap this up by the top of the hour, but do we have any other folks who would like to make some comments? Yeah, thank you, Sam.
I just have a comment. Dr. McClellan, I think, really laid the foundation for this. I think we open the door for miscommunication when we continue to refer to our college students as the kids. It also creates a way that they think about themselves. And I think that if we want to have respect between community members and the students who rent off campus, we need to recognize each other as grown adults, hold each other accountable as grown adults, and then expect each other to act as adults. But I think we need to respect our students by referring to them as other adults like ourselves. I find it very irritating when I hear people constantly refer to our students as the kids, the kids, the kids. They are not kids. They are grown adults. We're asking them to abide by a new ordinance and by the laws that the rest of us abide by. And I think that we owe them the respect of referring to them as other equal adults.
Other comments? Okay, folks, well.
I just had a quick question. He said that there's a time and place for us to have the social gatherings. I was just wondering if there was, can you like clarify if there's actually a time and place, or is that just a miscommunication?
Do you live on campus?
I do.
Okay. The way we would really answer that question is, it's not so much the time and place, honestly. It's about how you do it and what you do and your guests. If you can have a social gathering at 11:45, 12 o'clock in the morning, if you're in the house and you don't have blaring music and people running outside and throwing things everywhere and urinating everywhere, you can do it till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. That's fine. You're an adult. You guys have your own house, do your own thing. It's when it gets so large that it becomes an issue for people to live around, wakes them up in the middle of the night, or then they end up calling us. That's when it becomes an issue. You can party as long as you do it responsibly and everybody is under control. You can start in the morning and go whenever you want. It's all about the control of the party and your guests there. So does that answer make it a little easier for you?
Yeah, because I remember last year we were told that there was a curfew around 10:30 and we all had to be outside. Like, we were all adults, we all are old enough to live off campus or have permission to live off campus from the university. So we were just wondering, like, after 10:30, is it kind of like the lights out type of thing?
No, I don't know how that came across. What whoever was telling you this was probably trying to portray was a noise ordinance. That starts at 10. That was what most of these parties were asked to be shut down for. After 10 o'clock, and we were still getting calls and issues with it, and we would be citing people for noise ordinances. We would give them warnings, not shut it down, and that's what would happen. It is 10 o'clock. So the nuisance party is not based on a time frame. You guys don't have a curfew. You guys are all over 18, I'm assuming, but maybe a select few at 17. But you guys are allowed out anytime you want, especially at your house. As long as you're not causing issues or doing any of the other things inside that are illegal, you'll have no issue with us whatsoever. We'll come by and talk to you and how's it going? Have a good night? And we'll move on. There's no right and wrong place to party. It's how you do it. Does that help a little bit?
And don't forget, and once again, if you do have a party and it's getting to where it's out of control, and like a lot of you guys are seniors and you have a party and then we get called up there and there's like 150 students out there and you guys, they're like freshmen, you're like, we didn't invite them here, they just keep coming. We need to know. I mean, that's your role as the renter in your party to let us know, hey, we're having a problem and we don't want them here. We will help you get them out, but you have to tell us. So if there is an issue, just call us or flag us down saying we don't want them here. Because it's not per se you guys that's causing the problem, it's them. And that's where it starts affecting the neighbors across from you in the alleys, and they're yelling and busting bottles. And so we need to take care of it before it gets to that magnitude that it causes the problems, if that helps any.
One of the first things we do when we do go up to these parties, we ask, who lives here? Give me something. When I came up and spoke to you, I said, hey, who lives here? Well, I don't live here, but I could go get them. We bring them out and we address the issues with them. And I had a conversation with that individual. I said, here's the problem. This is what I suggest you do to keep it. It was fight night from the McGregor and Mayweather fight. Everybody wants to watch it. I wanted to watch it, but I was here. So I gave them things that they can do to help their situation, get the noise down, and everybody can still have a good time. They did those things that I suggested, worked out beautifully. No more noise, no more problems. Fight was over, everybody was gone. So we're gonna come and ask for you, the homeowner, whoever lives there, the tenants, whatnot, we're gonna address those issues with you and say, hey, step off to the side and be like, hey, I need to get some of these people out of here. Not a problem, I will help you. You get to who you want inside, we'll take care of the rest. And we're here to work with you. That's our main goal. We want to keep these lines of communications open. We don't want to come up and just give you a citation. We don't like to do it as much as you don't want to get it, but sometimes that happens. If it needs to be done, it's going to be done. But we would like to prevent that. Another reason why we're doing this tonight. To help? Okay.
How you guys doing? I'm LeJohn. Most people know me as Ace. Yep. About the ordinance, is that just for off-campus houses or is it on campus as well? Because that wasn't clarified.
Village ordinances are true off campus and on campus because the campus is in the village, right? So we would say any village ordinance would be applicable on campus just as much as it would be applicable off campus.
I was just asking because, you have campuses off in the corner in a flat circle. Mm-hmm. You have the townhouses, which are away from people who live in the neighborhood. So I just want to clarify.
You are right. There are places on campus that are a little bit more secluded. You said the townhouses. If there is a townhouse that is having a social gathering and it gets loud and neighbors call, university police will likely respond. So it would be a very similar protocol as if it were an off-campus situation. You would have students, non-campus students, one on-campus students, I think Susan wants me to touch base real quick about students that are on campus. So we've got our off-campus students and they have permission to live off-campus, and that's great. One of the other issues I think that we run into is it's not necessarily the students that are off campus that are causing a problem. Sometimes it's the on-campus students that go to visit those off-campus locations that cause a problem. So it's not just the off-campus students that are being targeted or that we're looking at, but everybody has a stake in this, and everybody has a responsibility to engage civically with each other and to be respectful when they're in the neighborhoods. That's something we want all people to do.
Any other quick thoughts here?
Like I said before, my name is Ryan Luton. I'm a student here at the campus, and I live at 158 Montgomery. And I think it should be known as well to the students that are here, my housemate Q and then my neighbors. We still have to do our part, especially for after parties. Like this weekend, we had a lot of things going on off campus, and there was a lot of partying. But in the morning, like one thing I saw at 107 was even right when I woke up to get trash out of my yard and my neighbor Betty's yard and across the street, the guys at 107 cleaned up everything in the street, and that's not something I even expected them to do, even at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think that's the kind of things that we need to, as students, if we're going to be having these social gatherings off campus, we need to make sure we do our part afterwards in the morning. I know I had the conversation with, is it Betty Dash? Betty Dash, the really old lady that lives next to 158. Really sweet. Really sweet. I just call her Betty, yeah. She's a really sweet old lady. Yeah. She knows it. She always carries her groceries. I ask her if she needs help. She's a very independent old lady. But I asked her about just like trash, and she said her biggest problem is always trash getting in your yard. She never wants to start a problem. She knows what we do, but she said if we can do one thing at all, just check your yard in the morning, clean up the cans, and if we as students, this is something you guys should know as well, if we clean up our cans, she wants to take those cans that we have in all the trash and donate it to like the camps of the church. So next to her garage, if we ever have any social gatherings, clean up in the morning, take all the cans, and bag them up for her so she can take them to her church. So I just think that having those conversations and us moving forward with what we're already doing, we're making good steps.
You'd probably be going to church with her in the morning, though, I think.
Yeah. We'll see.
Just to touch base on what he was talking about the trash and everything. I don't know, and I've never seen you guys ever do it, or any of the off-campus houses. Think about getting large trash cans and putting them out before the party starts. Doesn't help? No? Just a suggestion. I don't do it, so. Okay, yeah.
One of the suggestions that we heard from Bowling Green, Athens, some other communities who have similar ordinances in place was after they had maybe received some of the off-campus houses had received some of these citations, and the main issue was you have trash in your yard during this party. This is not what we want our community to look like. They began designating people during the party to take care of the trash. So they were the keepers of the trash can. They made sure no one threw it. They made sure that trash was picked up. They helped to keep the party in order. So if you know that you're going to have something large, my suggestion from my village administrator standpoint, and having been a student here, partied off campus here a while ago, but still, talk to your neighbor, talk to your neighbors, let them know what you're planning. Say, hey, we're gonna have this gathering, we're gonna have a party, we think it's gonna be about this big, we will be playing some music, just wanted to let you know, if you have any concerns, any problems, please come over and knock on our door. We want to be able to fix the issue before you call the police. We want to help get this under control before it gets out of hand. Those are the things that I think our community members really appreciate and really respond to well. We have folks here with children, young children. They go to bed. I have young children. They go to bed at 8:30. You wake my 4-year-old up at 9 o'clock, he's not a happy camper. So, you know, I'm sure that there are lots of other parents that are the same way. How can we live together in this community and work together and still have fun? What are some of the ways that you as students, as off-campus residents, can do to help bridge that gap with your neighbors? Those are some of the things to think about, but like I said, the other communities who have this in place, they've designated folks to deal with trash, to deal with noise, to deal with disorderly individuals, whatever the case may be. So if that helps at all, it might be something to think about.
Each addressed what I was about to say, and I'll just reinforce my thought, which is that the way that if a party is such that a trash can will get thrown, then perhaps it's a party that needs to be reconsidered. Because to me, that's not a party, that's something different. I'm older, I understand that, but I really believe very strongly that it's important to clean up as you go. In my house, and hopefully in your own homes, you probably don't throw empty glasses in the yard when you're done in your parents' house. And so we would ask you as a community resident to treat this house the same way that you would treat the house you grew up in. And I would like to thank everybody for being here and speaking and sharing. I I never thought anything like this could ever happen here, and I really am grateful.
And I also want to touch on one other thing. It's not just us trying to come up with ideas. If you guys have ideas, the community, the students, if you guys talk to your other colleagues, if you guys have ideas that might help, whether it's an education side or something we can do or something we can do together, we are open for all ideas. Come talk to us. Anything will help. So I mean, I just want to keep those lines of communications open. I mean, this is an ever growing and changing thing, and we're open for anything. So I'm going to pass it to Chief back here.
I'm just going to touch real quick on like the noise, like when it comes to music, when you're playing music at your parties, it's 2 in the afternoon, like Sergeant Dawson said. You can have your parties at 2 in the afternoon, but be mindful of your neighbors. We have children. They don't want to hear the derogatory music that's profanity this, profanity that. We're going to be banging on the door. So we don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, and it's just not good for our community. So we're not telling you what you can't listen to, but just try to find something that's a little bit more suitable for the children and everybody in our area.
Or turn it down.
Yeah, right. We'd appreciate it.
Okay, I think we're going to come to a close for this evening. This was an important step. The aim is not to have everybody see exactly eye to eye, but the aim is to open some channels of communication. We've got work to do, and we're going to be about doing that work. There's going to be a variety of things. I think the task force has gotten some very good information tonight. The one thing that we could use is if there are students out there, and we don't have a deep pool of you guys, but if you could spread the word about what you heard tonight, and if there are students that are interested in joining the task force, we have poor Ryan here, he's our only student right now, and we need some student perspective, some additional student perspective. So if you have any interest in that, please contact Susan Warwick. She is the chair of our task force here. And if not, we'll be going out and looking for some folks. So Thank you all very, very much for coming. Again, we really appreciate this next step. Every step is small, but it moves us in the right direction. So thank you very much. Good evening.